Hello, I'm not Mark Sutton. I am John Lim. I will be doing a talk on classical grounding. Mark will be appearing this afternoon. So first of all, a little disclaimer. There will be some swearing, there are some naughty bits, and there is some Star Trek. And I mean Star Trek TNG, not the original series. So this way. And right, because I know Paul loves these transitions. Okay, so what is this about? So a few years ago, I wanted to read Don Quixote and the Divine Comedy. But in order to do that, I felt I needed to read the Bible first. By the way, you can read the Bible in 90 days if you need to. Why? Why don't I do this? Because I didn't think you could understand the metaphors and the references unless you understood the sources that these authors drew upon. Okay, so we're going to have a quick quiz first. And apart from Tony, everyone can join in. Does anyone know what this is? Okay, anyone who was in the rehearsal yesterday also can't join in. Okay, and this, anyone? Indeed, this is the Last Supper, which my 6-year-old daughter got, which is a little bit disturbing. And a little bit harder now. Anyone? No? Okay, and a little bit more different. Anyone?
Oh, yes. Yes. It's the thing where they go traveling a long way away and they get stuck on their spaceship. Yeah.
No, despite it looking like Lost in Space, it's in fact from the Forbidden Planet. Okay, this one, anyone?
Oh, Ulysses, which was the best cartoon ever.
Yes. Indeed, Ulysses. Anyone? Indeed. Season 5, episode 2, Darmok. Thank you very much. Wait for it, Rob. What do these have in common, you might ask? So, they've all been based on or refer to various things like the Bible, Shakespeare, Homer's Odyssey and Iliad, Gilgamesh in Darmok. I think we should also have a grounding like this for all the stuff that we do. So I'm just going to take you through it.
I give you a round of applause for that segue.
Take you through a few of these things. So starting off with some history. So I come from a very open sourcey type background. Some of these informed my younger days. This is a biased or opinionated book from Eric Raymond, but it is very good to find out some of the early history and the lore of the open source movement. Hackers and Painters by Paul Graham, who you might have heard of, quite a famous chappie, Y Combinator, Microsoft. It's a series of essays to make you think about, well, what's this stuff that we actually do? One of my favorites is this book. So this is a biography of Richard Stallman. Hopefully a lot of you know who that is. If you don't know, he sort of single-handedly built a lot of the GNU tools that you use. He refused to look at any code, which might even influence how he wrote the tools, because he had people trying to sue him and stuff. So he was like, not even going to look at that. Stallman and Linus Torvalds together made possible Linux, or GNU Linux, if you're a fan of Richard Stallman. even the book itself is open source. This is free. You can just download it and read it. Very good, recommended. Okay, this is approach and attitude to developing and life. If you worship money and things, if they are where you tap real meaning in life, then you'll never have enough. Worship power, you will feel weak and afraid, and you will need ever more power over others to keep the fear at bay. I didn't come up with these. This is from this book by David Foster Wallace. Introduced by Dave Broom to me, if you remember Dave. It's actually a transcription of a commencement speech that he gave at an American university. The talk can be found on YouTube. It's only about 20 minutes. The book is quite short. You can read it. Throughout your life, you're going to face a lot of frustrations. This might help you think about how you interpret them to determine your outlook on things. It will determine your reaction as well. This book is a recent read for me, but I found it very poignant. It is quite US-centric. It talks about baseball, politics, and American military. But it's interesting how he talks about how the ego gets even the best of us in trouble. Oh, and Howard Hughes. Stuff like, don't assume that just because you've made it into the university or the job, that means as much as your ego thinks it does. Just be aware. This next book was introduced by someone here. Everyone should read this. And Nick. Okay, conduct. So this is more about what do you want to do day to day as a developer. This is the second edition of this book. That's very lovely. I was put off by the first edition, which was called My Job Went to India, 52 Ways to Save Your Job. But the 52 ways are actually, they're still in here. It's very good. There are lots of little tips on how you might want to approach day-to-day interactions as a developer. Does anyone know who this is? It is Uncle Bob. He wrote 2 books that I'm going to speak about. The first one I talk about is The Clean Coder. Don't get confused with his other book, which is Clean Code, and looks similar cover-wise. This is useful, I think, more to a corporate environment. So I don't think it applies to us so much at the moment. But yeah, well worth reading that. Craft. Okay. So, has anyone seen this book or read this book? It's quite, it's Pragmatic Programmers. It's an interesting way of teaching how you learn and how you teach yourself. Introduced me to the Dreyfus model, which is discussing how you go from novice to expert in any field, any topic that you might want, and how you should treat someone differently based on where they are in that journey. So you might be a novice at JavaScript, but you might be an expert at driving race cars. I don't know, but you could be at either point of those things. It's well worth reading to find out about that stuff. This comes more to down to earth stuff. What do you do when you're looking at your code? I'm assuming a lot of people have read this. Nope. Okay. Take this example out there. Broken windows. You might have heard people refer to issues as being broken windows. This comes from a thing that happened in New York in the 80s, I think, where they did a study. There was a warehouse, it had broken windows, and they discovered that if you repaired that window, it was less likely that anything further crime would happen in the area. Whereas if you left the window broken, you're more likely to get more broken windows, more graffiti, and in turn, this led to an increase in crime. So the idea is to patch the small thing that you can patch first so that bigger, badder things don't happen. This is Uncle Bob again. This is his other book, Clean Code, that I want to talk about. This goes down to a more granular level. This is going to be about the stuff you do day in, day out. Chapter 2 is entirely about naming, what you should name your classes, variables, and everything. I think we should spend more time thinking about this. It's really, really important. Yeah, read the rest of the book for other useful things. What resources do we have? We have a book club here. If you don't have a book club wherever you are, set up a book club. We're currently reading Learning Go, which is interesting because we don't do much Go here apart from in one team at the moment. So it can be on anything. It'll help broaden your horizons if you have a book club. I even did a book club on JavaScript once. Exorcism.io. If you haven't tried this yet, do go. You basically do lots of exercises in whatever language you want to do it in. You pass the test, but that's not the interesting bit. The interesting bit is where you get to practice code reviewing other people and refactoring your code based on comments you might have received. Well worth doing, especially if you're trying to learn a language. Safari. Safari books. Most of the books that I've shown are available on Safari. Now they also have a thing called live training, where you basically get an expert talking to you, and you can ask questions about whatever subject you want. Costs about the price of a head-first book every month. Can you convince your company to give you this? It's hard. They might say no. You should probably get it anyway, because it's going to be a benefit to you. Okay. What can we hope that our co-workers here will have read? Hang on. Nick said we have to keep this talk company agnostic. And I've got all these copyrighted images. So I refer you back to this book and Nick's statement. So yes. Okay, so those people that shouted out earlier, do you know what this means? Oh, good. Maz, what does it mean?
So they go and they slay the beast together to, like, seal their eternal partnership.
Yes, sort of. But this particular phrase, this particular metaphor means a problem to be overcome, as in the beast that they had to slay. This may or may not be the beast. No, this is the this is the book that was interpreted by certain people that have since left, that might be the reason why some of our code is how it is. Paul will be talking about this later. Does anyone know what this is? Not Tony, obviously, again. Does this help anyone? Does this help anyone? No, this is called a Dorodango. It is actually a ball of mud that has been polished. So this is what I imagine when I'm working on our code base. That we want to keep the outside shiny while we tinker on the inside and change it. I refer you back to Maz's talk about the breaking the monolith. Okay. So why do we? What do we use to keep our Dorodango shiny? Well, we are moving towards microservices. What should you have a look at for that? So there's this. So you might have heard the phrase microservices. You might not know what it means. You might have heard service-oriented architecture. You don't know what that means. Read this, because they are two different things, but I think we sometimes get them confused. On top of that, we are possibly building microservices and SOA. So it is very good to understand which one you are currently working on. This is our guidebook to microservice land. If you haven't read this, read it, because you'll understand better, well, why do we need this? Why are we doing stuff that way? Where should we go next? This book. Does anyone know who this is? Shout. Okay, she's written this, which, although it says it's in Ruby, isn't very specific to Ruby. It works for a lot of OO. What's interesting is I started thinking about objects in terms of messages as opposed to just making objects and then talk to each other. It's the messages that will determine what objects you want to build. She's recently beta 3'd this, almost final. It is her course in book form. Some of us here were lucky enough to have attended the course. Sorry, these people are dead to us, Maz. Okay, they are no longer here. But it's really just to highlight Sandy. Sandy is that one there. A question. So I've got this the sticker here, which you might not be able to see. It's bigger there. Can anyone tell me what this means?
What was Sandy meant to?
His eyes. So, what else have we got? We got this thing that Nick threw together in a week. Let's make this an annual event. Let's get more people in here. Let's get more speakers. And let's get Paul into everyone's homes. Yes, your living room. So in conclusion, if you want to find out more about Clapton, you would go back to the Yardbirds. If you wanted to find out more about transactional analysis from Dan's talk earlier, you'd go back to My Little Pony, which is where it all came from. Someone did ask me for more details on this yesterday. This is actually from My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, Season 3, Episode 12, Games Ponies Play, if you want to watch it. So, like Picard and Dathan at Eladrel, when we arrive at a new planet or company, we need to understand what's happened up to this point, so we can truly understand what we're working on. So, be aware of what has brought you to this point. Be aware of what has brought others to this point, so that you can work together to find a solution. That's it.
Yay.
Okay, if there must. Okay, yes, Maz.
How do you have time to read so many books?
Fast, read fast. Read fast. Read on the bus, read in the toilet, read everywhere. Nick?
I believe my comment might be taken slightly out of context. But I'd just like to clarify.
Okay.
So I believe what I actually said was you should manage your flip budget, a limited flip budget,
Right.
and spend it wisely.
Spend it wisely.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I take away from what you said. So now, in a change to the schedule, I think, we might be having some lightning talks, or a lightning talk. Rob Stern says 11:30 for him.
We'll take a quick comfort break.
Okay.
And then